I'd like to call this meeting of the Clay County Commission to order. For the record, it is Thursday, April 11th, 2024 at 6 p.m. on the dot. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Our presiding commissioner, Jerry Nolte, will not be here tonight. He's out of town, so I'll be filling in for him tonight. But if we can start with Madam Clerk, if you could. No, we're going to do the invocation first. Yeah, see, I want to get this thing done fast tonight, so I'm jumping ahead. So we're going to start this evening, as we should, with an invocation from Michael Beach. Michael Beach is the stake president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So thank you, sir, for being here. And we'll follow it up with the Pledge of Allegiance, so please remain standing.
Our Father in heaven, we come before thee this evening and express our gratitude and thanks unto thee for the many blessings that thou hast bestowed upon us, for this wonderful land in which we have to live and the freedoms we enjoy. We are grateful to be fellow citizens of Clay County and pray that thy Spirit may be poured out upon this county, that all may find peace, that we may be united and come together as a community, one in heart and one in purpose. We pray for thy Spirit to be upon this meeting tonight, blessing our commissioners who serve so selflessly, that they may have wisdom and understanding as they conduct the business before them. We pray for those who are here to petition the commission relating to various issues and matters that are on their minds and in their hearts. We ask thee to bless them with thy Spirit, that they too may have understanding and that they may be able to speak their mind and their heart. We now pray that thou would bless us this evening with safety and protection, watching over those who are not with us, recognizing the many within our area that struggle with various trials and ailments and sickness and disease. Wilt thou bless them and strengthen them and buoy them up and help us as citizens to be able to reach out to them and minister to their needs. We express our love for thee and for our Savior, and we pray for these blessings and do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Michael. If you please join me now in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, now, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Nolte. Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Lawson. Here. Commissioner Wagner.
Here.
Commissioner Withington.
Here.
Commissioner Thompson. Here. Commissioner Carpenter.
Thank you, ma'am. Approval of tonight's agenda. Do I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
Thank you. Move to approve tonight's agenda.
Commissioner Wagner's moved to approve tonight's agenda. Any discussion? Recognized to close.
I close.
Please take roll.
Commissioner Wagner.
Aye.
Commissioner Lawson. Aye. Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Now on to ceremonial matters. County Administrator.
Yes, this evening we have an honorary resolution, Resolution 2024-110. Whereas 33 work zone fatalities occurred in Missouri in 2023. 3,334 work zone crashes occurred in Missouri in 2023. Work zone fatalities in 2023 in Missouri are nearly double that of 2019, according to the Missouri Department of Transportation. Whereas according to the Federal Highway Administration, while work zones play a critical role in maintaining and upgrading our roads, work zones can also be a cause of congestion, delay, and traveler dissatisfaction. Whereas enforcement of work zone speed limits is shown to significantly reduce speeding, aggressive driving, fatalities, and injuries. And whereas work zone crashes and fatalities deeply impact family, friends, and communities. Now therefore be it resolved that the Clay County Commission does hereby proclaim the week of April 15th through the 19th, 2024 as National Work Zone Awareness Week at Clay County, and urges all citizens to join the commission in recognizing the importance of work zone awareness, and encourage individuals to educate themselves on the value of training and the importance of best practices in regard to work zone safety, and encourages individuals to practice work zone safety by avoiding distracting while driving, obeying road crew flaggers, and being aware of and obeying all signage throughout work zones, slowing down when entering a work zone, and being vigilant of road workers, maintaining a space cushion when driving behind other vehicles to avoid rear-end crashes, and encourages infrastructure owners and operators to deploy work zone protections to make travel on public roads safer for workers and road users, and support the goals and ideas of National Work Zone Awareness Week to bring further awareness to worker and driver safety while maneuvering a motor vehicle in work zones. And this evening we have Deputy County Administrator Carl Walters here to talk a little bit about what the county is doing for public education and internal education and awareness of work zone safety.
Good evening, Commission. Carl Walters, Deputy County Administrator. The 2024 theme of the National Work Zone Awareness Week, work zones are temporary. Actions behind the wheel can last forever. So on April the 15th, starting of the week, announcing the National Work Zone Awareness Week on social media as well as at the admin building on the slideshows on the TVs. Tuesday the 16th, Work Zone Employee Appreciation, opportunity to expressing appreciation in the county facilities as well as social media. Wednesday, April the 17th is Go Orange for Work Zone Awareness and handing out the orange bracelets, which I have here, and then we'll have others that the tourism will hand out as well. Thursday, April the 18th, Social Media Storm. Safety training will happen at the Highway Department and equipment training as well. On Friday, April the 19th, Moment of silence for the lost work zone accidents, observing this at 10 a.m. in the admin building and county facilities as well. And I'd like to hand these out to you. Observing the awareness. And if you have any questions.
Any questions or comments from the commissioners? Seeing none. Thank you, Carl. I just want to point out, if somebody missed those stats at the beginning that our administrator talked about, 33 fatalities in Missouri this year, or last year, from work zone fatalities, and over 3,000, actually 3,334 work zone crashes. Work zone fatalities in 2023 are nearly double what they were in 2019. It's a dangerous job, and I don't think a lot of people realize how dangerous it is and the importance of slowing down when they see those work zone signs, because people are dying. But we appreciate the work that you and your staff do out there on the highways, and we would like to present you, if we can do a little picture down here in the horseshoe. Maybe you can come up and we'll have the commission down here. We'll present this to you for a picture. Okay, next on our agenda, we have public comments. Is there anybody here in the audience who would like to give any comment? I'm actually not seeing anybody in the audience who's not, except for Mr. Updike. I know he's here for another matter. So anybody here for public comments? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Ma'am?
The consent agenda allows the commission to act upon items considered to be routine and approved in one motion. These may include items that have been reviewed by the commission in a prior session. There will be no separate discussion unless a commissioner requests that an item be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. There are 6 items on the consent agenda this evening, including the commission meeting minutes from April 4th, and Resolution 2024-117 is approving the invoice payments for Clay County for the period of March 21st through April 8th in the amount of $274,693.69 for 192 invoices. Resolution 2024-111 is approving the Clay County Collector's Report and recommendations of the tax sales surplus. Resolution 2024-113 is approving the 2024 revocable event license for the Cowboy Up events, the 13th annual event in Smithville Lake. Resolution 2024-114, approving the 2024 revocable event license, the 4U Foundation for the 2nd annual walk run at Little Platte North Trailhead at Smithville Lake. And Resolution 2024-116, approving the appointment of Presiding Commissioner Nolte and Eastern Commissioner at-large Lawson as the Clay County's District Directors to the Missouri Association of Counties for 2024.
Thank you, ma'am. Do I have a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
Yes, move to approve tonight's consent agenda.
Thank you, sir. Any comments, questions from the commission? Hearing none, you're recognized to close.
I close.
Ma'am?
Commissioner Wagner.
Aye.
Commissioner Lawson. Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
Commissioner Withington.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, on to our regular agenda. Start with 2024-112. Ma'am?
Resolution 2024-112 is a request for a waiver of fees, interest, penalties, and taxes due to county error for the property located at 1301 Northeast 66th Street, Kansas City, Missouri. And I do believe the applicant is supposed to be present, but I don't see the applicant.
So the applicant, that's Mr. Bertram?
Yeah, I believe Ms. Bertrand was to be here this evening. Staff did do follow-up calls with both applicants to ensure that this evening's schedule would work for them. So I don't know if they've been delayed. I've had no conversation.
Okay, so in this case, do we take this up just based off the documentation that they've given us?
Yes, you can.
Okay, so for the record, we have been given, the commission has been given in advance the appeal and the reasonings for the appeal for these waivers of fees and interest and penalties. With that, the commission have any comments or questions regarding this before I ask for a motion? Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you. Just so that I understand this.
Your thing didn't come on for some reason. I don't know why. It clicked on here on mine.
There we
it
are.
goes.
There we are. Thank you. So just for those who watch at home, and I'll just kind of throw out I'm happy to make a motion, and I'll make a motion for denial, primarily because it does seem like there was a lack of communication from a move that it looks like was made that was not communicated to the county and therefore caused some issue in and then sending information to that person. If I'm reading this correctly, between the quit claims and everything else involved with this, am I
Correct.
Administrator? Am I following that correctly?
If you would like to, I could do just a brief.
That would be fine. Yeah.
A brief recap of the timeline that
Sure.
is in your packet, along with some backup documentation. But per state statute, the collector is required to send the tax bill to the address of record that is on file with the assessor's office, which was done in plenty of time, and it was sent to an address in California. Though that documentation came back to us, and you see a copy of that in there,
Right.
that was stamped that the forwarding address had expired.
Yeah.
You know, post office will only do it for so long. And so we had no way of determining where to send it. Then in November of last year, there was a change on the quitclaim deed on the record with the recorder of deed, which then did get to the assessor, and then did the change of address, then did get to our collector's office, and they re-sent out the tax bill to the new address that it was in Nevada in the 1st of December. We never got the second bill that was sent to Nevada back from the post office, so assuming it got delivered. The taxes did not get paid, so as per our process, with the time that we send out delinquent notices, the delinquent notice also went to the address in Nevada, and that's when the property owner reached out to us and indicated they hadn't received the tax bill.
Right. And one of the things that's at least striking to me is, since it was forwarded and that forwarding was allowed to expire, or it always expires, but it seems to me that is, there is a time to then communicate that to the county. That didn't happen. And so I'm perfectly willing to make that motion if others are okay with that. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I move to mark the box denial for 2024-112.
It's been a motion to approve 2024-112 with the box marked denied. Is there any comments from any of the commissioners? Anything from the collector by any chance? No? I will say to, if they're listening at home, or if they do listen to this later, the taxpayer who's appealing this, I do want to say thank you for your years of paying taxes and paying taxes on time. One of the problems that we face is that we have to show that this was a fault of the county to waive this fee, and at this point, I don't think that's been proven it's the fault of the county. So with that, I'll recognize you to close.
I close.
Commissioner Wagner.
Aye.
Commissioner Lawson. Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
Commissioner Withington.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Next up, 2024-115, ma'am.
Resolution 2024-115 is a request for waiver of fees, interest, penalties, and taxes due to county error by Lyle Updike. Mr. Updike is here in the audience and has information to present to the commission. In addition to the information that you had in your packets, Mr. Updike has provided additional information that we have copied and placed at your seats, and I believe Mr. Updike is here.
Thank you, Mr. Updike. Yes, sir. Please come forward. There's a button on that microphone right there that will turn it on for you. And if you could please state your name, and I think you know we have some of the documentation that was filled out before and what you've provided tonight as well. And but if you'd like to state your case and give us any other information,
Absolutely.
please do so.
Lyle Updike. Many of you I know, and some of the others that aren't here I definitely know. I want to give a little background before I get into the specifics. I've been a taxpayer here in Clay County for 50 years. This is my 51st year, and as Joanne would know, my wife worked at City Hall in Kearney for 27 and a half years. So from that standpoint, I'd like to just point out that the things that we do, and you can see by tonight I'm wearing my first responder shirt, and I did give you a copy of what we do. And that has nothing to do with this, but hey, it's a little about who I am and what I do. I have never missed a payment. I've never been late, and I have never underpaid a tax bill. And my best guesstimate over the past 50 years has probably amounted to about $210,000 to $220,000. I, like anyone else probably in this room, I don't like paying taxes, but it's a law and I have to do it, so I do that. My history, you probably couldn't care less, but again, it goes to who I am. I spent 30 years as a national sales manager for a major international pharmaceutical company, responsible personally for about $35 million worth of sales. And then I formed my own business. I personally had a manufacturer repping company, and I traveled the US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. So I've been very much aware of rules, regulations, laws, etc. So with that being said, and again, you'll notice when I gave you the copy of my first responders, that's become my passion since I've been hit twice with prostate cancer, which just came back on me last September. My goal is to do 5,000 before I quit. To date, in the first 10 years, I've done 3,700. Platte, Clay, and Clinton County. And I circled the ones that are here in Clay County. So that's what I do, that's who I am. And so back to the point, I gave you a copy there of the sequence from my checkbooks. I've always tallied up my tax bills, put them all in one envelope. I guess being a little bit tight, not wanting to spend an extra stamp. And it was tallied such that on my real estate, 4 parcels, tallied up to exactly $5,278.77. That check was written. I included in that my personal property bill for $33.43. Wrote a separate check, as you can see, the same day, and I mailed them the same day. And when I get my tax receipts back from the county, I simply open the envelope and they normally fold it like so, pick it up like that, and I can see tax receipt, there's 5 of them. Put it in the file until time to start doing my taxes on a federal basis. And so I'm thinking everything is good until I get a notice, I believe on or about March the 20th, 2.5 months later, that I did not pay my $33.43. The thing that got my attention was that each of these are specific, and it showed that my personal property, real estate on my home, which was like a $3,300 bill, said that was paid short by $33.43, which was the exact amount for my personal property business. There is no way and that I can understand why when you've got a check that adds up specifically for real estate to the exact amount of 4 parcels, why you would take another check for $33.43 and say I paid short on one of the real estate. Didn't make sense to me. And the other question I had was, why was it 2.5 months before I got a notice that penalties and interest? That's when I had a meeting with Ms. Jacobs, who I might say was very professional, and I appreciate your work that she did. It was unlike maybe some other ways, but she was very professional, and I want to compliment her on that in public. So with that being said, we go through everything and trying to explain why personal property was shorted on my other bill. And so I went to the bank, and you've got the record there where my check cleared for the $5,278.77, which was for the real estate. But the other check had not shown up. I did not check the last 2 weeks. And so with that being said, during our meeting, I said, okay, fine, I'll stop payment on that check. Who knows where that is? And I wrote another check for that amount. And at that time, she says, that's fine. Then whomever the lady was you called in, they credited me for that, but my interest and penalty was still going to accrue. Now, it strikes me that when you're approving bills for $247,000, that I'm here taking up your time for $4.96. It's just the principle. I did what I always do in the best way I knew how, and I was unaware of what they'd done because I did not pull these paid receipts out until going to see my accountant to get my taxes done. And so with that, I'm just saying that I had no intention, or never have I missed a payment, or paid short, or been late. And so, again, if you got any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. But
Well, thank you, sir.
I almost apologize, but on one hand, I don't, for wasting your time for $4.96.
No, we are obviously here.
I'm hopefully optimistic that somewhere in the legislature and the statutes and what have you, there can be something whereby the administrators, the collector, or someone would have some degree of flexibility when there is obviously a screw up, whether it's for $25 or $50 or $100 without having to come to you folks. So with that, I appreciate the time. And I could talk the rest of the night because I was always in sales, but you guys wouldn't appreciate that, I'm sure. But that's my case.
If you'll just stay right there, you might have a couple of questions coming your way. I'll start with Commissioner
I'll be
Lawson.
happy to.
So it's actually $4.65.
Is that what it was? I'm sorry.
I think $4 and, I beg your pardon?
It's 471.
Okay.
$4.71.
Okay, we got different
and-
numbers, but that's fine.
Okay, and I have a question for our attorney. So I know this gentleman. His son worked for me many years back. And, but, I mean, we don't socialize or anything like that. Can I? Pardon, sir?
You're good.
You don't have to recuse.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, okay. That's all I got.
That's all you got? Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you. Well, first of all, Mr. Updike, thanks for all that you do for this community. You and I have not had the opportunity to meet previously, but appreciate what you do. Unfortunately, that has no bearing on the decision that we'll make today.
No, I understand
But I at least
that.
want to recognize.
I understand that, but I was just trying to set the
complete-
record as to who I am and what I do.
Completely understand. You may have heard, and I'll steal our Commissioner's thunder a little bit, if you don't mind.
Please do.
Because what I think he would tell you is probably what you heard with the last piece that we discussed as far as where we have discretion. Because state law basically says that our ability to waive those fees is based on being able to show that it is the county that is at fault with
Understand
what
that.
you've experienced. And unfortunately, as we have gone round and round many, many times over the last couple of years, nothing has changed in state law, and so that's kind of where we are. So, so to get to the matter at hand, I guess my question is going to be a little bit more specific to the process you went through. I understand you wrote both those checks. You put those in the same envelope. How was that then delivered to us? How did you actually pay? Did you go to the pay window? Did you mail it? Kind of what was?
It was mailed at the Kearney Post Office on the 28th, the same day I wrote the checks. Mm-hmm. And never have I had a problem. I give it to the clerks and have them stamp it at the post office. Mm-hmm. I did not on that one think there would be a problem from Wednesday or Thursday, whatever day that was, getting from Kearney to Liberty. Mm-hmm. The next day I wrote my sales tax to the state for my barbecue business. Mm-hmm. That was on the 29th. When I took that one in, I asked her to stamp it, so make sure it's stamped. It's got to go a little further this time. Mm-hmm. And she turned it around and said, why don't you take a picture of it? Mm-hmm. And I did. Mm-hmm. But I did not on this one because I thought surely from Kearney to Liberty, there wouldn't be a problem.
Sure.
And as I understand from Ms. Jacobs, the process, and I don't understand it all, it comes in, it's open, they're scanned into the system. Yeah.
Come on up.
Yeah.
Join the party.
No, I appreciate that because that's kind of the next part of the
I hate to take
conversation.
the collector's,
Oh,
Deanna Jacobs, Administrative Service Officer.
The mail that came in what we call a lockbox. So they put a sleeve over it, it's never opened here at the county, and it goes directly to the bank. And the bank is the one that would have opened
Right.
his mail. And
Okay.
it
Yeah.
was stamped, it did come in on time.
Yeah, so thank you, because that was going to be kind of the next comment of, we don't open it from here, it just goes straight onto the bank and then it's
Well, I
handled
was
there.
understanding that, and I can
Yeah.
only imagine
Yeah,
the job that they have to do, the collector, the last week of December, the first few days
Yeah.
of January.
right.
And how many tens of thousands or pieces of paper that come in for someone to sort through? And is there a possibility that one piece of paper or how many others get caught up?
Right.
And I don't know.
Well, based on what you've presented and what I'd read before coming here tonight, the only thing I can imagine is that if there was an issue here, it was at the bank, at the point at which something was open, but there's no way, there's no way for me to know, but just, that's kind of how I view it, based on how you've described that payment was made to the county.
Yeah, my issue is not so much from the standpoint, that check's still floating around somewhere, who knows where, but we
Sure.
can't, so you got, and I paid it as soon as I knew about it.
Sure.
But my issue was, why is one amount of money applied to a different account that's totally different? Why would a personal property check be applied to real estate? When the exact penny to the penny in those full parcels
Right.
adds up to the 5,000 plus check. But someone chose to take a $33.43 and say that,
Applied it over
sorry,
there.
the other one was underpaid.
Gotcha.
To me, that was my problem. That was maybe something in the system, don't know. And certainly I'm confident on the people that you hire here, but I don't know necessarily if I even refer to my own bank in Kearney. They change, people work in their bank more often than I change socks. And they're always looking for people. So
Sure.
is it the possibility that that check was wrapped up in the trash, the envelopes fell on somebody's desk, it stuck in something? I don't care. I
Sure.
paid it. I'm not objecting to paying the tax that I owed.
Well-
It's just, to me, it was just credited to the wrong place.
Gotcha. Well, I'd be curious to the answer to that question, but I know others have questions, and so I'll stop right there and,
Okay, thank you, sir. Commissioner Withington.
My question is for Collector O'Reilly. How does that happen, that part of his check would get credited to a different account?
Barbara O'Reilly, collector. The stubs that were in with that check, they would have just posted to the stubs and then the check amount. And then whatever, say there was 100 or something, whoever, whatever one ended up being the last one, it would post the balance to it.
Okay.
That's what, we have a tolerance amount of, I think it's $100, that if the total of all the stubs and the check is $100 difference, then it will send none of it through and send it all back to us so we can verify. But this wasn't in the $100 amount, so it would have just posted to however they were, in the envelope with the check, because they put the envelope, the stubs, and then the check, and that's how it would have been.
Okay.
And
The
It is-
second check's in question, but.
Right, yeah.
My question is, the arbitrary decision that somebody at a bank has when my numbers specifically are tied to those stubs.
it's a machine. It's run through a machine.
Okay. You answered, that's what my curiosity was.
It opens the envelopes and stacks them up, and then it reads them. The machine reads the amounts on the stubs and then your check.
So I understand that, right, for clarification, just basically takes them in order and credits them in order, and when
Right.
you're out of money, whatever's left.
Right, yes, the
Okay.
$50.
So nobody is there to look at, hey, this is exactly the same amount as he owes on this bill.
No.
Okay.
And I would just like to comment, and surely all of us have used various machines in offices, including the copy machine, that for some reason, some way, somehow, they do manage to eat paper sometime. and you never find it. But I appreciate that, and that was a question I had as to who could arbitrarily make that decision.
Thank you, Barbara.
Okay, so let me ask, what would the difference, I don't know who can answer this, what would the difference be if that was, there's still a shortage of 3343. Would it make a difference if it was applied to something else? In other words, you know what I'm saying, right, Barbara? You understand what I'm trying to say? In other words, what if it was applied like he wanted it to be applied? Would he still have penalties and the same penalties and fees involved?
Yes, because there was one, it was short $33.40,
Right.
so.
So it
yeah.
didn't really matter where that credit went to.
No,
You're still going to have the same penalties and fees, right?
Yes, sir, yes. And whenever he came in, we did reapply it, so it took the $10 clerk's fee off of the real estate. So we applied everything back to the real estate, so it took $10 off of there. And he did pay the principal on the $33 one, and it left $7.71.
Okay.
Was it 471? What was the number? I've heard 3 or 4 different numbers. From 496 to 471 to, it's not enough to argue about. It's just
$4.71.
471.
Yeah.
It cost
So-
me more than that in diesel fuel to get here.
So-
And it's
so
taken
Mr.
more of your
Yeah.
time, but it's just the idea that it didn't make sense to me that an individual could arbitrarily go from one account to another, or if it's a machine, it's even worse.
Yeah.
And after 50 years, I've never had a problem.
But that wouldn't have made a difference. You understand that, right?
No, I understand that. That's
Yeah,
why I wrote a check as soon as I found out what it was and handed her the check.
So now the other
I'm not
issue.
squawking about taxes that I owed.
Okay.
It was just something that I did in good faith, that I'm not saying an individual did it. Who knows where it went,
Right.
but it was there.
So
I do all my taxes at my kitchen table. When my wife was alive, I had about 3 days to clean the table off. Now that she passed away 4 years ago, I have a little longer, but I do when my kids, my daughter-in-laws in particular, you got to clean up your kitchen table. So it's not like I've got an office stash full of papers. When I finish doing that, everything comes off, goes to the files.
So then the next question is, obviously, a check that you said you wrote and stuck in the mail wasn't credited to your account.
Correct.
And so
I
the question is,
replaced that check.
you replaced that check. And so
Yes.
the question is, what happened to that check? Either you didn't put that check in there, or you put that check in there and it was lost by the bank, apparently, because we don't
That's-
open that up, the bank does.
But now
And
she
then
tells
that
me,
raises the question of, if we believe that you actually did write that check and you've showed enough evidence that you wrote the check, how do we handle it if a bank loses a check? I mean, we had an issue, I think it was last week or the week before, where someone had a check actually stolen. And we thought, well, the laws don't really cover that, and they did everything they could to try and pay their bill, and someone stole it. And I don't know if the same thing would apply here or not, but if you did everything you could do to pay your bill and you put a check in the mail, it's like, well, what else could we ask you to do if the bank lost it? And I don't know if they did or not. I guess that's kind of a judgment call that has to be made.
that's where we are.
here.
It's just a matter of, I don't know how many thousands of pieces of mail you send to the bank.
Right.
But surely, mine's not the only piece of mail that ever got lost. If so, I want to shake
Right.
somebody's hand if they got that degree of efficiency. So,
Okay. And by the way, I don't know if I mentioned or not, first of all, thank you, because I know you have been a taxpayer for over 50 years in our county, and you pay your tax on time, and I appreciate that. Thank you. And you're a first responder. I was a first responder for nearly 3 decades of my life, and so I appreciate your support there as well.
It's my passion now because my prostate cancer is back.
Oh, man.
I'm going to try to do 5,000 before either that makes me stop or I hit my 5,000 number. I normally do 500 a year. I'm going to try to do 6 this year so I can get it done in 2 years.
I appreciate
But I
that.
will report that my PSA went from 61 when I was in the hospital to .035. So he said 2 more tests and they're considered cancer-free.
That's great.
But that's what I do and that's all I do.
So anything else you'd like to add before the commission
No, sir.
makes a decision? Okay,
That's
well,
it.
thank you, sir. Is there anything else the commission would like to add or ask, or is there anybody would like to make a motion on this? No, none have been made yet for this one. Commissioner Wagner. Yeah, it does it again. Whenever I push it, it's...
It must be personal. No, I'm kidding. Thank you. I'm going to make a motion, and I just want to say to Mr. Updike, this is not a personal reflection on you, sir. I'm going to make a motion that I think is most relevant to what we have had guidance on as we've talked about these various issues. But I also want to say that your questions and concerns related to practices, I think, has been very helpful to us this evening. And so I want to say I appreciate that. With that, I move that we approve 2024-115 with recommendation of denial.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Wagner for 2024-115 with the box marked denied. Two quick comments from me real quick. Number one, some of you might realize that the presiding commission doesn't normally vote. However, when a regular commissioner fills in for the presiding commissioner, they don't lose their vote. So I will be voting. But along those lines, I will be voting no to that just because I'm of the opinion when we think a taxpayer does everything they can to pay their taxes, and it's not their fault. And I believe that you put that check in the mail, and I believe that that check was lost. That's what I'm going with. And so the law isn't clear. The law doesn't cover that. The law tells us, hey, if it's our fault, then we can waive it. The law is basically silent on what if the taxpayer does everything he can and it gets stolen or it gets lost. And so I think it's incumbent upon us to kind of make a judgment on that. And so with that, I'll be voting no on that because I don't think it's fair. But nonetheless, any other comments from either colleagues? Sir, you're recognized to close.
I close.
Commissioner Wagner.
Aye.
Commissioner Lawson.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson.
No.
Commissioner Thompson.
No.
Commissioner Withington.
You guys put the pressure on me. I'm going to vote no as well.
Motion fails 2-3.
Thank you. I don't normally do both, but what the heck. Thank you. I move to approve 2024-115 with the box checked approved.
Motion's been made, 2024-115 for the box checked approved. Any comments? Hearing none, you're recognized to close.
I close.
Ma'am?
Commissioner Wagner.
Aye.
Commissioner Lawson.
I don't know how, wait a minute.
So we're voting to approve
You changed the vote.
waive the fees.
Yes.
Oh,
I made
okay.
a whole new motion and everything.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, all right. Okay, so, no.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
Commissioner Withington.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
Okay, thank you. So Mr. Updike, in case you didn't understand what just happened, you win. You're getting your $4 or whatever cents back. But I appreciate you coming in and making your point. I think the collector...
Procedures was my main issue, so.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
I appreciate your time. I told you I talked a lot.
Okay, I think the collector will explain to you now what the process is from here on out. Thank you, sir. Okay, that concludes our regular agenda. On to county administrator comments.
Just that the commission's next meeting is next Thursday here in the hearing room on April 18th at 6 p.m.
All right, on to commissioner comments. Start with Commissioner Lawson?
Nothing.
Nothing. Commissioner Wagner?
Nothing, thank you.
Commissioner Thompson?
No comments, thank you.
Commissioner Withington?
So the Royals won today, and they're going to the World Series this year, so that's always a good thing. But so earlier this week, I was at a meeting with Mark Mid-America Regional Council, and we were talking about unfunded mandates. And we need to keep an eye on the Missouri budget for I-35, I-29. There were some people in the room who weren't happy that it was funded. They seem to be surprised by it and are hoping that that funding is vetoed by the governor. State Senator Maggie Nuremberg, she fought to get that into the budget. So she worked with Republican leadership. So and it's an important intersection for our county. So we need to make sure that we keep an eye on that and make sure it doesn't get removed. And then I know we're going to be starting budget preparation, in a few months? So I know we had discussion earlier this year, late last year, regarding a application process for external agencies. Yeah, I would like to, get an update on that, see where we're at, and see how we're going to handle that as a commission to open that up, or have a discussion on just have a discussion or whatever. So.
Sure, just to brief the commission just briefly, based on your direction during the budget process, we did inform all the recipients of this year that the process would be changing next year. There would be an application process. So in essence, as they're looking future in their budget, do not assume that this is a guarantee that you will be getting those funds. So certainly we can put that on as a discussion item for the commission. I'll be real honest, I haven't thought much about that process. But other than during the budget process, the thought was to bring before you a dollar amount in which you would like to allocate to the agencies. And then once the budget is adopted, we would start the application process. So I kind of hadn't really worked on what the application process is, but we can certainly bring that up for discussion.
And
see what you
no
wanna
rush.
do.
I mean, we got a few months. I just wanted to make sure we were out ahead of it.
Yeah.
And not trying to just come up with something at the very end, so.
All right, thank you, sir. And by the way, that amount that you're talking about on the roads is
53 million for
50
just for I-29. It's for I-29 35. It goes Jackson, Platte, and Clay, right? But is this just for the interchange?
No, it was for 29,
And 35.
35, and one other.
Well, to 169.
169.
Yeah.
So, and if I may, I believe this phase would be for the NEPA that's required as part of that process. So this isn't building it, but it is the next phase you have to go through before you get to construction.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, like I told you, since I was filling in for you,
Yeah.
I gave you that update. And I told Jay about it also. Kansas City wasn't happy about it. They want Bruce R. Watkins 71 to be a priority, and MoDOT acted like I was lying about it. So the lady in the room didn't know. So.
I appreciate you bringing that up. I think that's a good point. We talk about money in politics and the money grabs that go on. 50-something million is a lot of money that we could use for the roadways here. So, yes, we need to keep an eye on that. One comment I'd like to make before we adjourn is I recently got a notice, actually this week, a notice from the city of Kansas City in the mail. And the reason why I share this is because I'm concerned this might have happened to other folks in our county. This is a notice I got from the Commission of Revenue for the city of Kansas City, and it says they determined that I was liable for earnings taxes in the amount of $506.82, and they went back 3 years on me with penalties, interest, and so forth. I don't live in Kansas City, never have. I don't work in Kansas City, never have. So I made a phone call and said, tell me the glitch in the system. I don't live in the city. It's easy for you guys to figure that out. Tell me the glitch in the system. And so what happens is apparently through the IRS, anybody who has wages and a Kansas City address, they send you a bill. At least a bill is generated. There's supposed to be some checks and balances that says, wait, this guy, although he has a Kansas City address, he lives outside the city of Kansas City. I live in unincorporated Clay County, but a Kansas City address. Anybody who lives in the county is going to have an address that may be tied to a city, even though they live in an unincorporated. So I don't know how many people have a Kansas City address who do not live in the city of Kansas City. I'm sure there's several. And so my concern is that if you have a Kansas City address, but you don't live in the city of Kansas City like me, you live in the country, and you have wages, you get a W-2, you're going to be sent a bill. And the bill, coming from a government agency, may look like, hey, you're delinquent, you need to pay this amount. And somebody who's maybe a little bit more of a wallflower than I am might say, oh, I'm in trouble, I better pay this because interest is still building. That concerns me. And I certainly let them have it. The poor guy that I talked to, this is his first month on the job. And he called me back and told me, hey, there was a, what's that? It may be his only. Yeah, no, real nice guy. And he called me back. I said, listen, my issue is, if it's just me, that's great. I said, but the system is broke. I said, if you guys are just mailing these out to anybody who lives in this, has a Kansas City address, whether they live in the city or not, and it's easy for you to check, then that's a problem, because people are going to be paying that. And I said, I don't want that happening in Clay County. So he called me back. He did some checking, called me back. He said, no, it's actually, there's a human error. There was a glitch. They were supposed to be double checked. Yours slipped through the cracks. I'm hoping it's just mine, but I want to get that out there. If anybody hears anything about that, or if anybody's listening at home and you got one of these and you don't live in the city, but you have a Kansas City address and they're trying to tax you, it's probably not right. So I just want to get that out there. And with that, are there any other comments tonight? Hearing none, we are adjourned.